1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. I can turn it up a little bit. Great. What's up, YouTube? Gonna get a little louder for you.
Sort it out. We only have 2 large.
We only have 2 larges left. Rip. Okay. We're gonna have to make them fight for those.
So we know it's working. I can turn it off until 10 a.m.
Yeah. Can you mess with the mute? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
What's with it?
I'm sorry, you guys. All right, sound check. Can you guys hear me all right? Sweet, let's roll. Welcome everybody to Efficient Web Hacking with Caido. If you guys haven't already, definitely download Caido and also hop into this Discord channel here where we can do a little bit of communication. If you guys have any questions, obviously you can ask during the talk. Just raise your hand or whatever, and I'll call on you. Or you can drop them in the workshop channel afterwards, and I'll reach out to you. Yeah, this is me. I am Justin Gardner. I'm an advisor for Caido. I do not work for Caido full-time, maybe like 15, 20 hours a month. My full-time job is I'm a bug bounty hunter. So I am using Caido at my full-time job to do web hacking. This year, I've been focusing mostly on Google. And we actually just won the BugSwat live hacking event in Tokyo last month using Caido. Our whole team of 4 people was using Caido. So very helpful. Yeah, if for some reason you're not sick of the sound of my voice by the end of this talk, you can check out the podcast, Critical Thinking, where we talk about bug bounty findings, takeaways, techniques. We keep it really technical. We really don't dumb down the details at all. So check that out if you're interested. It's a little tricky because it's an audio medium, right? And you're talking about technical stuff. So I'm like, all right, now I'm going to read out this exploit live on the air. So it gets a little tricky, but we do our best. All right, yeah, I'm going to go into that, but first I'm going to introduce you, Emil. This is Emil. He is the co-founder of Caido and the backend dev. So if there are any bugs, you can yell at him, as I do. I say, Emil, please implement this stuff for me, please. And actually, every time I do these sort of talks for Emil with Caido, I always add a little wish list at the end of the presentation that Emil hasn't reviewed.
Peer pressure.
Yeah, so that I could say, like, Emil, wouldn't it be great if we had these features? and then somehow those magically get done faster. So I love that. Seriously though, the team is really responsive to feature requests and bugs, and literally, you drop something in the Discord, and there's normally someone responding to you within the hour to troubleshoot the issue. So it's really high quality job.
Unless we sleep, but yeah.
Yeah, well, but even then we've got
Yeah, we
Kodai
got
in
some,
Japan time, so
yeah.
we've got it covered. Yeah. Oh, the other thing you need to know before I go into the details of this talk is that I really love engagement, right? I even brought my own little mic so I can walk around and come here and see, look at y'all's computer screens, try to help troubleshoot issues. So if you wouldn't mind, I would really, oh, maybe I need to be careful with that because maybe I'm not sure I can go into the back. But yeah, if you have any issues, please raise your hand. Please ask questions. Now, I always say that, and then people are like, okay, gotcha. So I decided I would actually incentivize that this time around, okay? So we have a whole box of Caido t-shirts here, just like this one. And for the actively engaged in the labs, right, because we're going to do some hands-on labs, and for the people asking questions and are not afraid to ask questions, right, then we will have t-shirts. Yeah. And I think I just want to reiterate the fact, yeah, hey, yeah. So the last thing I was going to reiterate with that was something that I always say at the beginning of these talks, which is it is dumb not to ask questions. If you have questions and you're coming here and you're trying to learn and you're not asking them, you are wasting my time and you're wasting your time. Okay, so let's work together to get you guys up to speed on Caido as fast as we can and hacking as efficiently as possible, and then everybody's time will be well served, right? Cool, good. All right, so I'm going to start off this presentation by talking, the title of this presentation is talking about efficiency, okay? In the bug bounty world, which is where I live, efficiency is very important because you have a lot of scope to cover, and it's money for results, right? It's not money for time spent. So every second I'm spending trying to find a vuln is money not not being earned, right? I'm not earning that money until something pops and I get a vuln. So it's very important to be efficient in our hacking. And as I was reflecting on that, sitting in my hot tub, I came up with this theory, okay, on maximizing bug hunting results. And that is essentially that we should try to maximize the attack vector value per 30-minute increments. 30-minute increments, I'm not going to go into all that today on why I think that's the minimum stuff that you should go after. But the attack vector value function is impact times viability divided by friction. So our impact is our chance of our impact if the attack vector was going to be successful, right? So it could take over a server or it could leak user information. Those are different impact values. The viability is the chance of success. What is the chance of this actually working? Kind of fuzzy, can't really quantify that. And then divided by the friction. How much effort does it take for us to implement this attack vector technically in our tools, right? So next slide, Emil. The thing we're focusing on here is friction. So this concept was taken from the book called Atomic Habits. I'm not sure if you guys have read it, but it's super good. It's talking about how to build habits in your life. And the main takeaway from this for me was I need to add friction to things that I don't want to do, and I need to reduce friction on things that I do want to do. And what I want to do is find vulns. So how do I reduce friction on that as much as possible? And that is what we're trying to solve with Caido. So how do we reduce friction and make you like one with your HTTP proxy, where you're in this flow state where you're not really thinking about the details of implementing these attack vectors. You are just doing it. And then you can stay locked in on your methodology, and you don't have to think about the details of that. Yeah, and so some of the ways that we do this in Caido is we reduce the number of clicks required for things. We try to build out keyboard shortcuts from the beginning. We use workflows, we use plugins, and then we use AI-assisted organization and implementation of automation and implementation of our attack vectors. So we'll go into all of that today. So the goal for this talk is develop skills that will minimize the friction in Caido and kind of push us towards a state where we can test uninhibited by our tool, right, as an extension of ourselves. All right, so let's get into the meat of it. First, we're going to go ahead and familiar ourselves with the Caido interface. Just by a show of hands, how many people here have used Caido in an assessment of an app before? Okay, we've got one. Solid. So 2. Okay. So so this will be, we'll spend a lot. That is helpful information. Thank you. So we'll focus, we'll spend a lot more time on this beginning piece here, where we're familiarizing ourselves with the Caido interface, and we're working through some labs on implementing vulnerabilities. Yeah.
You already asked
You
one.
already got one. Yeah, you get it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, all right, let's go ahead and roll. Okay, so first piece here that we need to talk about is how web proxies work. So the thing up at the top there is how your browser normally communicates with a web server, right? Your web browser sends some packets out. It goes through the networking router shit, and then it lands on the target website, right? And the target website will process it and send the information back the same way. When we have Caido in the picture, it looks more like this. Your browser sends the information to Caido. Caido sends it through the network tubes and goes into the target website there. Let's see, we've got maybe once, are you saving it for a buddy or no?
Yeah.
There's one here as well. Maybe that's another reserved seat, or you can stand. Sorry, guys. No, go back.
Go back?
Emil.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is kind of the flow that we're working with here. Yeah. So we need to get your Caido proxy in between your browser and your website. That's kind of the goal there. All right. Next slide, Emil.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? Well, we need to get your browser pointing towards Caido. And we can do that a couple ways. One, up at the top in Caido, if you guys have it installed already. Hopefully you do. If anybody doesn't have it installed, you should definitely go get it installed right now. But at the top of Caido, there is this button that's like a little Chromium logo. You can press that, and that will automatically pull up a browser that proxies through Caido and has the root certificate and everything like that installed. I actually prefer to use Caido in my actual browser that I use for my testing, my normal accounts and everything. And to do that, I proxy it. I install the root certificate in that browser, right? Which we have CA certificate installation guides right here. And then proxy the browser through Caido, which is, we have something on the next screen for that.
Yeah.
Typically, what I use for this is a tool called Proxy Switchy Omega 3 for Chrome. And you can set up some really cool profiles with this, which I'll show on the next slide. But yeah, right here, I kind of put some configuration tips here on how you can really quickly toggle in and on and off your proxy. And go back one slide, Emil.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also have this bypass list here. For any of you guys not like hacking Google or OpenAI, it's really helpful to have these bypasses in place, because if you're doing LLM stuff, then if you're proxying it through a proxy, the streaming isn't going to work just like it should. So I always put the bypass list in there if I'm not hacking Google. Just a couple pro tips there. Go back to the next slide, Emil.
Yeah.
See if there's anything I need to talk about here. Oh yeah, guys. I mean, I guess you guys haven't spent a ton of time assessing web apps, but I've been doing this for like 7 years, and like I just found out earlier this year that when you switch your proxy profile in your browser, there's a button that makes you not refresh the current tab. It's up there at number 1. And I've been doing that my entire career and being so mad that that was the default functionality, and there's just a little button to switch it off. So these slides will be available afterwards. We'll put them up. And if you guys are looking to optimize your setup, this is my tips on how to do it. Okay. Yeah, so then hopefully we've got this sort of setup in place. If you don't, I'll come around and help on that in just a second. Okay, so next thing that I want to talk about is the architecture of Caido itself. Okay, so what we're used to in the industry before Caido came on the scene with these proxying apps is a monolith, a single app that you run on your computer that proxies the information. Caido is built out a little differently. It has a client and a server. So the client-server architecture makes it a little bit more dynamic with where your Caido instance can live. For example, when I'm at home, I've got my desktop server, set up that's like sitting on my desk, and I've got my 4, 20-something inch monitors here, and I'm like doing my thing. And then, at something happens, I have to get up, I grab my laptop, I go to my sunroom, I'm watching my kids or whatever, and I open up my laptop. And because I've got the Caido client on my laptop, I can connect just right back to my server on my desktop, and all of my data is still there. I can pick up right where I left off, right? And all of the heavy processing, all of the gigabytes and gigabytes of requests that I have are living on my desktop, and my laptop, all it has to do is render the Caido front end. right? So this is really helpful for those of you guys that haven't invested in like, a 64 gigabyte laptop to run any other HTTP proxy software, which you will absolutely need. And allows you to be a little bit more dynamic and continuous with your testing, even when you're not in front of your main workstation. Another common configuration that we have for Caido is you can put the server for Caido in a VPS. And that's pretty cool. I personally don't use it that way. And the reason for that is that it does increase latency a little bit. So, obviously, you're going to have to send the Caido front end is going to have to communicate with the VPS. And the VPS is going to have to send it out. And then you kind of add another hop in there. Whereas on your local network, that doesn't happen that much. So, and I think some people use it with Tailscale too. Yes, thank you for a question. Yeah, so Burp Suite has a monolithic architecture. So you have to have the Burp Suite app on your device where you're actually interacting with Burp Suite. Yeah, and so it's just a Java monolith versus this one has a Electron-based configuration here, and you can connect from the front end. You can connect from your browser directly. You don't have to have the desktop app, and then you've got the back end as well. Yeah. Super light.
Yeah, super light, like you use it on a Chrome.
Yeah, so I mean, the front end, you can actually access the front end from a browser. Like it's just a web page. So it's super light. You could run it on a Pi. The back end, I guess, the back end piece where the server is, I'm coming to you next. Guys, this is great. This makes me so happy. Thank you. The backend piece is also still pretty light. It's like,
yeah, it's usually like only if you do some heavy processing, we're gonna need more CPUs. But usually, like if you, at least you have 1 gig of RAM and 1 CPU.
It's like a couple. It's like 100 megabytes. It was crazy because
the most important part is the disk speed.
No, it's not, dude.
No.
It's
for us, we use a lot the disk. So if you use like NVMe SSDs, you're gonna get better performance. Like the disk is where we store our data and where we do everything. So yeah, that's the only.
It's Rust in the back end too, so really optimized. And Emil spends a lot of time working on performance. It's really clean. Yeah.
Kind of answer my question about like how does the server actually work with the web server?
Yeah. So
maybe put it over Tailscale.
Yeah, exactly. Tailscale is what I've actually have used that interface.
Yeah.
The front end, being in the browser, it's a little bit. there are some people in the bug bounty world that I've seen that are kind of psychotic that like to use it actually in the browser tab that they're doing their testing in, and I'm like, please don't do that. But for some reason they like to like.
No judgment.
Yeah, I don't like whatever. Emil's like, hey, I do that. Anyway, I'm a little bit of a purist. I like it, but all right, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Okay, so we talked a little bit about performance. We talked a little bit about how Caido is really, really valuable in that area. And I just wanted to point out to you a couple projects here. This is a 24 gigabyte project and a 10 gigabyte project right here. So I have millions and millions and millions of requests inside of Caido, which is something that I was really not used to before with other HTTP proxy softwares. You can put a couple 100,000, then you got to start a new project is the experience, right? But in Caido, I have been working in those projects for a very long time, building up a ton of data, and it's still as snappy as ever. My laptop can run it, and I mean, realistically, searches will take a little bit longer as it inflates in size like that, but the searches are still pretty snappy as well. This interface here is the workspace interface. So once you're in Caido, you can create a project and you can select your projects here. One of the really cool things about Caido, and I actually need to add a little thing to that, but you can see it. I kind of like to use my finger like this in the presentations. Sorry, people that are on Zoom and can't see what I'm pointing to. Right up here, you can see the little folder button. That is your drop down to actually switch projects, okay? And guys, it's instant. So one of the most amazing things when you're a bug bounty hunter is you're hunting on something, and then your buddy's like, oh, dude, remember this thing we were working on the other day? Check out this request. And then I'm like, okay. So then I go to my projects and I open it up and it takes forever. But with Caido, you literally just hit that drop down, select the next project, and it's there instantly. So you can keep your data really segmented and organized well. It's really easy to do. All right. So now we're kind of getting into the Caido interface. We'll take a maybe a couple minutes, and if anybody has any questions about how to get Caido set up, I can go around and kind of answer those. Yeah.
Things like you need to have a user in order to start to go beyond the guest mode. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so you have the guest mode if you want to like just do the basic stuff, and then after that, yeah, we're basically our billing is based on users, so you have unlimited installation, but yeah, we are account based, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody need? Yeah, I guess we'll pause this for now. Can you kill the mic, and I'll. Does anybody need help getting it? All right. People on Zoom or YouTube, hopefully you're set up. Sorry, I can't be of more help there. But everyone here in the room seems to be proxying, and if they're not, they're just not telling me. So it is what it is. So let's go ahead and kind of move into the Caido interface. So as a hacker, guys, you're going to be spending most of your time actually in only two tabs in Caido. It's going to be HTTP history and it's going to be replay. Okay, and we know that. And so we are working to make your experience as good as possible in those two tabs. And we're also, of course, supplying a lot of supporting features to those. But those are the ones where we're going to spend a lot of time so that you understand exactly what's happening. OK, so this first screen that comes up here is HTTP history. This is a list, a table of all of the traffic that has come through Caido. If any of you guys are familiar with Burp or Zap, they all have similar functionalities to this, right? Let me point out some of the different features on this. You can see at 1 and 2, something a little bit different is happening. And this won't be happening in your HTTP history right now, but it will be by the end of this talk. Okay. So what we've done here is one of my most treasured things about Caido so far, which is it's called top-level navigation highlighting. Okay. So when you load up a site in your browser, you navigate the URL bar. Right? And that URL bar, when you navigate it, it does an HTTP request. It downloads the HTML, and then it runs it. Right? And when it runs that HTML, it renders it. And when it runs it, it does a bunch of things. It makes a lot. It loads images. It loads sub-resources. It does fetch requests with JavaScript. And oftentimes on modern day websites, you go to a page, and then your HTTP history bar just goes brrr, and it just blows up because there's so many freaking sub resources nowadays. And so one of the things that I've done in Caido with a passive workflow, which we'll cover later, is highlight our top-level navigations so that we can correlate what page, what page in our URL bar triggered all of these sub resource requests. And this allows you to orient yourself much faster inside of Caido. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a workflow to do just that later today, and we're gonna build it together. And we've also got some coloring there to help have specific requests stand out. All right, so that's 1 and 2. 3 and 5 are our request and response panes. That's where we can see what Caido or what the browser sent to the web server and how the web server responded in any given scenario. Okay, and it's all in just plain English. I love to talk to beginners about this sort of thing. Like, HTTP protocol can be a little bit overwhelming, but hopefully if you're listening to this talk, you speak English. And if you speak English, then all this is just English, and it's got a little semicolon in between, or a little colon in between. And a lot of the stuff here is just really face value. And maybe sometimes you have to look up some headers or everything, but it's just text on over the wire. Not a big deal. So try to keep that in mind. And then at 4, we've got our right-click menu. This is where we'll be performing some actions within Caido. And a lot of these have key bindings as well. But you can see some of the ones here that are commonly used. Copy URL, copy as curl if you want to work in a curl environment. You've got send to replay, automate. You can note a specific request as a finding with send to findings directly here. So this helps you kind of keep track of requests that are maybe something you want to report. You can replay it in the browser, view response in the browser, add and remove from scope. So that's directly useful for if you're trying to filter what you're seeing. And then you can run workflows and plugins from here as well, which we'll cover all of that later. And then lastly, number 6 up at the top, we have, drum roll please, the HTTPQL bar. Okay, so HTTPQL is one of the coolest features of Caido, and it is a Wireshark-like query language that you can use inside of Caido to query specific parts of an HTTP request. This is a proprietary protocol. I guess it's open source. We'll leave open the details, but it's like something that Caido came up with to solve this problem for hackers, right? Of how to search effectively. We took a lot of inspiration from Wireshark on that. So let's go to the next slide and let's look a little bit about HTTPQL. So HTTPQL is a structured language. So there is a little bit of learning curve, you guys. There is a little bit of learning curve. So work with me here. I'm going to try to reduce that learning curve for you a little bit. But the autocomplete that is in there is super intuitive, and the whole thing seems to work really, really easily if you just simply read the autocomplete. So hopefully this explanation will get you pretty much everywhere you need to be. But as a part of HTTPQL, there are 4 primitives. There's the namespace, field, operator, and value. Okay. So in this scenario, we have a namespace, which is the request, right? That's number 1. We've got the extension. That's number 2, right? That's the field. We've got the operator. So what do we want to do with this specific field? That would be contains. And then we provide a string as the value, which is JS. So what we're looking for here is a request that has a path that has an extension that ends in JS, right? So we're looking for JavaScript files. Yeah. Did you have a question there? No. Okay. Cool. Any questions on that? Yeah. Operator contains. Yeah. So I think we just had the short form, right? Yeah. But if you type, CONT, then it will show, contains in the URL bar there, and then you click it or tab it out, and it will switch to the small ones. Yeah. So actually, we'll see that in just a sec. So go to the next tab. Okay. So this is a workshop, guys. In workshops we do labs, and my poor VPS is about to get smacked because this lab does 100 requests from each of your browsers. So hopefully that doesn't go down. But you can go to caido.rhinorator.com and you can click on the Too Many Requests lab. And essentially the goal of this lab is you go to a page and you click a button and it pops up 100 requests. And inside of that 100 requests, there is a secret value somewhere. and you guys need to use HTTPQL to find it, okay? So I'll go ahead and let you guys work on that for a little bit, and then we'll swing back around. Holy crap, has it already been 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We'll
Okay.
need to skip some labs eventually.
Yeah. Shit. Okay. All right. Well, give you guys a couple minutes to go after that. Yeah. Did I not have the okay, that's fine. Go back again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you got it? Nay, nice. Okay. So the solution for this one is that here, actually, Neil, let me hop in there because I'm just going to show Caido real quick because I didn't put the solution slide in here. So the way that you would do this is you would go to, oh, this is now this thing up at the top, the zoom is blocking my thing. I'm going to put this down at the bottom for now. Okay.
We
So
don't see the HTTPQL bar.
oh, you don't see the HTTPQL bar?
No, can you put the yeah, oh boy.
Did
Just
it?
don't put it full screen.
Okay.
Put it
Yeah, let
like-
me just expand it really quick. I guess the screen is cutting off.
Yeah, like a screen.
Mm,
That's good.
yeah, I want them to actually be able to see the thing. Anyway, so if you go to go to response RESP, right? You can see it's got response right there. Dot raw, so the entire content. Dot and I actually solved it not with not contains for this, because if you look at I think I had it all, yeah, right here. If you look at any of these, it says error, try again, right? So I said I don't like seeing that, right? So I put don't contain raw, try again, right? And then you try to find the specific value. So if I were to go ahead and I don't want to hit it with all of my I don't want to blow up the 100 requests. So let's do contains Caido.rhinorator and secret value here, right? So you can see right here that it filtered out all of the ones that contain try again. So the only secret value here remaining is the one that actually contains the secret value, which is request number 77. Okay. The thing that I added up here shows a good example of how you can use HTTPQL in a chaining way. You know, we added the keyword and there, and then we just provided another query, right, which is request.host. So I'm focusing specifically on Caido.rhinorator.com, right? So it makes it really easy to zero in on specific hosts. If you guys have any questions about that, I'd be glad to take them, but we're actually going to move along on this one for now so that we can get to some of the other content. Okay, so as you become a little bit more familiar with HTTPQL, your HTTPQL bar at the top of HTTP history might get a little crowded, right? And maybe you don't always want that up there. So you can move those values directly into filters inside of Caido. You can find filters on the left-hand side. It's the third from the top. And these filters are sort of preset HTTPQL queries that you can provide to HTTP history or search. Okay, so here's an example of one that I use every day. It's Google APIs. And I oftentimes when I'm hacking on Google, I like to focus on their googleapis.com domains or their client6.google.com domains, which is just a copy of Google APIs, but that has the Google TLD so that it can do cookie-based authentication. And so I have a preset specifically for that. And then when I'm querying in the URL bar or in the HTTPQL bar, I can actually just use preset and then select from my set of preset filters that I've created. And select GAPI, and then it will filter just the Google APIs. Okay. Yeah. So that go back to that last one.
Yep.
Again, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There's something else I wanted to show there. Oh, I'll show later how you can actually toggle those from the advanced bar in HTTPQL. I'll show that later. Okay. So now we have another opportunity to solve this lab using a Caido filter. So if you go to filters and you do response.raw not contains try again, or maybe contains secret value if you want to focus in on that, then you can solve this lab using a filter as well. We're not going to take the time to do that because I'm yapping. Yeah. I am yapping today. I'm feeling a little yappy today. Okay, so filters are really important though, guys. So definitely spend some time playing around with those afterwards once you get back home. Okay, the next tab that we're going to move to is intercept. Okay, this is a tab that we reworked with Caido from the other designs from other HTTP proxies. I think the design has shifted towards Caido design now, but this used to be a very different design. One of the cool things that Caido can do here is you can intercept requests coming from the browser, right? So the browser sends the request and boop, it stops at Caido, right? It doesn't go to the web server yet. And then you can selectively forward, you can edit and then selectively forward requests. One of the most amazing things when I first started using Caido that made me switch was that in intercept on other HTTP proxies, you have to press forward to skip through all of the HTTP requests until you find the one you want. If it's a little buried, you're pressing forward, and then the one comes up that you want, and then you press forward again, and then it goes, and you're like, ugh. So one of the things that's really nice about Caido is you can selectively, you've got a whole list, you've got a table there of the requests that are being intercepted, and then you can selectively forward each one, and then just drop the rest of them or forward all the rest of them through. So you do that via obviously the drop and forward buttons, number 4 and number 5. You can drop it either at the request level or at the response level if you want to do that at the browser, prevent it from going back to the browser. Also at number 3 up there, we have 2 buttons currently that are reflecting the paused state to say which ones do you want to intercept. So if you want to intercept only responses, you can do that. Or if you want to intercept only requests, you can do that as well. And the UI will dynamically change.
We have
in accordance with
WebSocket
that.
now.
Oh yeah, as of, I don't even know if that's in the screenshots. As of last release, we can now also intercept WebSockets, which is cool. Oh, and I skipped number 1. My bad. At the top right, there's a forwarding/queuing button. That is how you turn on this feature. And that is accessible from any page within Caido. It's just up at the top right, which I think is really helpful because often I'm in a different environment and I'm like, oh, I'm about to go, let me go catch this request. Press the button, make the request, make my modifications. So you can turn on and off queuing from any spot within Caido. And then number 2, which is the order that I should have gone in, we have the HTTPQL bar, the beloved HTTPQL bar, which is filtering for what kind of requests we want to intercept. So if you know that you want to tweak a specific request as it goes across the wire, you can provide a filter there or an HTTPQL query that will only intercept that specific request. Okay, yeah, I guess we will go ahead and do this one is a good lab, and we've got we should definitely do this one. So let's go ahead and use intercept to solve this IDOR lab. IDOR, for those of you who aren't familiar with web testing, is insecure direct object reference, and that occurs when a web app is requesting a specific user ID, oftentimes, right? It could be any object, but in this case, it's a user ID, saying, hey, can I have information about user number 1, right? And that's not something you can control from the browser UI. But when you're intercepting with Caido, you can see that coming over the wire. And then the brain goes to think, well, what would happen if I requested from the server information about user number 2? Right? Give it a shot. Caido.rhinorator.com. I realize I'm standing in front of the screen for you guys a little bit too. So Caido. No, you're
Most
good.
hackers, they don't know
You're good. I'm
SQL.
glad. I'm glad.
Or they
Alright,
know
it
just
seems like
SQL
you guys are
injections,
doing
but
a
they
great
don't
job
know
up
the
there.
how
A
to
lot of you guys have
SQL,
already
so
moved
that's
on
why
to
we
the next
made
step.
HTTPQL.
I
But
want
yeah,
to make sure we move
it
with
would
that.
be fast.
Make sure that it doesn't become frustrating. So
Okay.
we're going to
Interesting.
cover replay next. What you need to brute force all of the IDs, guys,
Oh, okay.
is automate, and we're going to cover that a little bit later. So hang tight on that for just a moment. Anybody, if anybody has final questions about that, raise your hand. If not, I'll move along.
I think we should move on.
Okay. Yeah, but I was going to say you could go work with them. Okay, next, guys, is replay. Now, I told you earlier, the hackers that use Caido or use any HTTP proxy spend like 95% of their time in two areas: HTTP history, the one we've already covered, and replay. Okay. Replay allows you to take a specific request and replay it, do it again, tweak it, right? This would be really helpful for this lab because right now you have to go in there and you press intercept and you're like, oh, okay, I got to reset the browser, press back to form, and then I got to intercept it again, right? A lot of you guys had that struggle. So let's reduce that friction and let's use replay instead. So in order to send a request to replay, you can go to HTTP history, right-click on the request, and hit send to replay and select the default collection. Or you can just press Control-R. That's what I do. And when you do, it will be populated into the replay tab, which you can find on the left-hand side. It'll be placed into the default collection, which is a organization folder for these various requests. You'll also see it up at the top in your current open tabs bar, number 3. In previous HTTP proxies, you would continue to lose screen real estate for every tab that you had open. It would push all the way down. With Caido, that is not the case. You can close any of those tabs up at the top, and it will still be able to be found in the collection on the left-hand side with the search bar with indexes on the host, the path, and all sorts of things you might want to search for. Okay, very handy. At number 4, you can see the send request. That allows you to reissue that request and see the new response. Obviously, you've got the request and response panes. The request pane you can tweak, modify it to fit your needs. And then number 6, we've got, once again, that sort of right-click menu where you can execute various workflows, things of the like. And then number 7 is placeholders functionality, which we will cover later, but is super sick. Okay, so we'll come back to that, but I just wanted to hint at that. Emil, next slide. Yep. Let's go ahead and solve that IDOR lab again. This is going to be snappy, guys. But let's solve the IDOR lab again using replay. So go to HTTP history, find that post request to idor.php, send it to replay, and then tweak the ID value and press send. Okay? So kill the mic and we'll work. Yeah, go ahead and
All right, let's continue.
and there we go. Yeah, so as many of you guys saw, the solution to that one is to go to HTTP history, send the request to replay, modify the user ID to 2, and then press send, and you'll see the other user's data at the very bottom in the JSON, in the JSON blob. Another thing that I wanted to highlight just from the replay interface is your ability to move requests within collections, right? You can drag and drop, or you can right-click and hit move. And guys, this is essential when you are doing large-scale testing. One of the things that I really emphasize time and time again on the podcast, and just whenever I'm talking to people learning web hacking, is you need to become extremely well acquainted. On the podcast, we say extremely intimate with these applications. You need to know everything about these applications and be able to pull up a request that has a piece of functionality immediately. And that's how you really become the master of that application, can chain things together to achieve high impact vulnerabilities, okay? And one of the ways that you do that is you stay organized. And these collections are really, really helpful for doing that. I often create a collection. Actually, we're going to do a lab. Just go to the next one. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and get familiar with this. Create another collection called vulns, okay? And then send that user ID equals 2 request to that vulns collection, right? This is what I normally do when I find a vuln. I try not to break my flow state. I'm already like locked in with the app. I just create a vulns collection, send that request to the vulns collection, and then I keep hacking. And then at the end of the day, I'll go back, I'll write up all my reports, and then I'll submit them, unless I'm in a live hacking competition where somebody might dupe me, and then I write it up right away. And the team gets the shittiest report ever because I just pasted the request in. So let's go ahead and take a second, do this lab. I'm going to give you guys 1 minute to do this. Yeah. I need water. What are we at? What time? Oh my gosh, it's already been an hour. Okay. All right. We're gonna breeze through some of this next stuff. Okay, so maybe this is one that we need to move quickly through. So this functionality here is what I mentioned before in the replay environment, number 7, where you can add a placeholder. Okay. So actually, let's hop back to that slide really quickly so that they can see number 7 on this screen right here. Right, you see the clear, the plus, the minus. You select some text and press plus, and it will allow you to create a placeholder in that environment. Okay, go back to the other side. Once that placeholder is in place, you can click the little edit button. You can see that at number 2, and it will pop up this placeholder piece here where you can define dynamic variables to go inside of your replay requests. Okay, we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into this. There are some things that we need to cover before we can use this. But go ahead and you know, in your replay request, select some text, add a placeholder, get to the screen, and then we'll come back and do it after I explain some of the things that you can actually use to insert dynamic text into your replay requests. Okay, next slide. So one of the first things that you can do to insert into those replay requests is an environment variable. Okay, so this is very helpful when you are testing with different users, and you've got different set of variables you need to keep track of, like user IDs, authorization bearers, API keys, etc. So if you go to the environment tab, you can create a new environment up at the top. And inside of that environment, you can define a new variable. For this scenario, I've defined an auth bearer, number 4. And that variable will then be exposed within Caido's environment. One thing I don't think that we fixed on this one is
No,
that you have to press this update button down at the bottom,
Yeah.
which is kind of annoying, and I shoot
know.
him out for that, so don't worry about that. I already did it. But you have to press that update button, or else it doesn't autosave. So you can go ahead and create an environment and a variable, and then those variables are the things that you can substitute into replay if you'd like. We do have functionality as well, where you can automatically update these variables using a workflow, which we'll cover in a moment. So consider this: you're going through your HTTP proxy, you've got a workflow running that will grab out the current authorization session from a user and then update a variable with that session. And then you can substitute that session, your cookies, into any replay tab, which keeps all of your sessions alive in replay, easy peasy. So that's one of the problems, right? Like maybe you test on one day, and then you come back the next day and you try to send a request from replay, and it's like, oh, your session's dead, and you're like, shit. And then you got to copy and paste a bunch of cookies. It's a pain. This solves it.
Friction.
Yeah, friction, and we try to reduce that. So this is how we do it. All right, the other cool thing that you can do, and that I just alluded to, is we can use workflows, okay? Workflows are sick, guys. Workflows are really helpful, and they are the just-in-time automation or last-mile automation, right, within Caido. Super easy to use, low-code, no-code interface, or code interface if you want. You know, you're hackers. Maybe you can write some code. And so we're going to dive deep into those, make sure you understand at least how to use those at a cursory level today. There are 3 types of workflows: convert, passive, active. When you hear convert, I want you to think bytes in, bytes out, okay? There, you provide some string, some set of bytes into the workflow. It will do some operation on it, and it will output some set of bytes, okay? And those are how we perform a lot of operations like base64 encoding, URL encoding, JSON beautification or minification, those sort of things. So let's go ahead and check that out. Emil, next slide.
Yep.
Here is the beautiful workflow interface that we work with, okay? You can see on the left-hand side, we have, so let me first say, you can get to this page by workflows on the left-hand nav menu, and then click convert workflow at the top, and then you can click add a new workflow, or you can select one of the existing workflows. I'd recommend adding a new one, though, because we're going to do that in just a sec. And then from the left-hand side, you have a vast amount of nodes that you can put in here. We've got a lot of operations built in. We will be increasing the amount of nodes and the organization of nodes soon. Right, Emil?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. And yeah, guys, they brought me on it as an advisor, and I've brought them a lot of grief.
But it's
But
also like from the community,
Yeah.
we want to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
What types of nodes you need, most common operation that you guys are doing.
Yeah, and they do implement it, right?
Yeah.
They implement the features, which is great. So it makes my life a lot better. But when I found out that they actually do implement the features, I was like, this is amazing. And then I gave them a big list. So anyway, you can grab the nodes from the left-hand side, you drag them in, you connect the flow of data, right? That's the flow, that's the process in which those nodes will be executed. On the right-hand side, you have some configuration options. And I will be transparent with you guys. This is not a perfect system. The node connection pieces, they should auto-populate some of these variables on the right-hand side here. There are weird conditions where it doesn't sometimes, and that is at the top of the to-do list for the next release. So likely, if your workflow isn't working the way you want it to work, check these guys right here. These data references, and make sure that they align with what you think they should be.
Yeah.
And we'll help you troubleshoot those as well.
Let me
go ahead.
just jump in a bit on
Yeah.
that. So what you see on the screen is the logical flow of operation. So those are the operation like convert start, and then it will do hash and join. So what you see on the right is what we call the data flow. So data can flow from one node to the other, but it doesn't need to be the exact parent of that node. So if you need to reference some data from another previous operation to 2 nodes up, that's also fine. That's why we have like this reference system. And when you have the drop down, you'll see all the data that are available. So sometimes we try to auto-connect it. We try to be smart, but sometimes we can't, or sometimes it's a bit buggy. So
yeah. So we're working to improve this interface, but it is to the point now where you can get a lot of stuff done with it. And I'm going to show you some ways that I actively use it in Caido when I'm hacking in just a moment. and actually, this is a great example of what Emil was talking about, because if you see, we are currently in the join node, number 3, right here, which joins two pieces of data together with a separator in between, right? So you can see that the left side is convert start. So that's the first input into the node, right? And then next you've got the SHA hash, which is its parent. And then we've got a separator, which is and hash equals. So we're actually referencing the data that we brought into the workflow right here on the left-hand side, even though that's not its direct parent. So just pay attention to these variables. That's where the meat is, really. Yeah, yeah. And so what this does here is it creates a hash of your HTTP variables in the body, is what this is designed to do. And that will help us solve the lab that we're going to do right now, which is the SHA signed lab on caido.rhinerator.com. So take a second, go ahead and check that out. Your goal here is going to be to use a convert workflow to solve those problems, okay? And I actually didn't put it in the slides. I should make a note to do that. The way that you run convert workflows within Replay without using the placeholder system is simply highlighting text, right-clicking, and hit run workflow. And then it will take the selected text, put it into the convert workflow, and then produce the output, okay? So I'll show you guys that in a moment, but I'll give you a second to work on your convert workflows. This lab right here, I'm sorry, I do have one more comment. This lab right here is essentially this endpoint is only taking the request if it has that hash parameter, and that hash parameter is a valid SHA hash of the remainder of the body parameters, right? So it's trying to prevent you from tampering with it, but we can just create the SHA hash ourselves. So that will be the solution to this lab. Go ahead and try to give it a shot and implement it. For anybody who's on the YouTube, sorry, we realized that this needs to be a SHA-2 hash. This is from an older version of the talk. Here's the workflow right here that you guys need to be creating. Apologize for that. Yeah. mic really quickly here.
Puis là, après ça, si on va dans
Okay,
le-
guys, so this is, I'm going to come back around and answer some questions in just a moment, but I want to demo how this is actually intended to work for you guys. Is the text too small here? I can increase it really quickly. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I can't do much about that, unfortunately, but this is my replay environment.
Pas encore parce qu'il manque le
What you guys are going to be doing here is removing the hash, modifying the request like you want it to be, right? So instead of user 1, we're going to put user 2, like this.
Ouais, celui
And then we're going to select this value and hit convert, replace, and then run our signature on it, right? So that will append the and hash equals whatever, which will allow path validation right here.
avec le join entre les deux. Faut être un peu créatif.
And you can see that we got the results right here.
Pas de problème.
So your workflow should be configured like this.
You can
You take
Yeah.
in the join, you start with the convert start. So that's what you passed in. That's the user equals 2, right? For the SHA hash 2, that generates the hash for that actual portion of the HTTP request. And then you concatenate that with a separator in the middle and hash equals. So on the left-hand side, you've got the data, then you've got the separator, right, which is and hash equals, and then you've got the hash, right? So that's how that's structured. And then hash 2 should be very simple, just pass in the convert start data into it. I'll leave that up on the screen. You can kill my mic and all.
I'll just do the explanation like for everybody. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's because you probably have.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and walk through the solution for everybody now. Okay. So we can keep moving.
Just delete one.
We've got 4 nodes in this. Our convert start, that's what takes data in. Okay. And I'm sorry, I meant to come back to you, but we're running short on. I did. Good job. Nice job. I'll get you. Wait, did you already get a shirt? All right, I'll get you a shirt. I'll get you a shirt for that.
Yeah.
So we got 4 nodes. Convert start.
Okay, so
And then we're going to do a SHA-2 hash. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
And we're going to pass the data into that, which is our convert our convert start data. So the data that we pass in, right? That's the bytes in part. So then it's going to hash whatever we pass in, right? And then we're going to align it. We're going to then move to the next node, which is our join node. And there's 3 components of this join node. We've got the left part, right? I guess it's right left for you. We've got the convert start piece, right? Which is the data that we inputted. So in this case, user ID equals 2. Then we've got the right piece, which is our SHA hash, right? And then in the middle, we have that ampersand hash equals, so that we're appending a query or a body parameter onto the data and supplying that hash, right? So then if we do something like this, x equals 1, and we hit run, then we will get this hash appended on the end, which is the SHA hash of x equals 1, okay? And that allows us to quickly make those modifications within replay. And then I'll just mention at the end, make sure that your convert end node, depending on the order that you connected some stuff and you dragged it in, you may need to modify your convert end node to make sure it's outputting from join, not from SHA-2 hash, okay? And then I'll show you how I used that in this example. So here we are in replay. There's a couple ways you can solve this. We can use this interface right here, where we add a placeholder on that, and then we select the workflow from the dropdown.
This is only for Pro, though.
Yep, this is only for Pro. Maybe you guys may not be able to use this right now, but we could add it like this, and it will automatically do it. Or the other solution, which is just you can run it directly from within replay. You can also do this on intercept as you're working on. You select the data you want to pass into convert, and you right-click and hit convert replace, and then run your workflow on it, okay? So the selected text will go workflow, okay? You select that, and now you can see user 2, and then we've appended on that hash equals the SHA-2 hash. We press send, and now we're accessing user 2 data again. This is it. Like, this could be a naive fix that a developer might do to an IDOR vulnerability, right? Doesn't make any sense, but it could be. All right. We will continue on with the presentation. I know that. Hello. Is it a little difficulty here? Okay. Oh, Caido's running, so Google Slides doesn't like that.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay. So now let's cover some other types of workflows. Geez, my throat is gonna hate me after today. Am I speaking loud? Dude, I get excited, man. I can't help it. I get excited. Okay, so that's a convert workflow. Bytes in, bytes out, right? Convert workflow is. Thank you, guys. All right, yeah, the little call and response there. So then we've got 2 other types of workflows. We've got passive workflows and active workflows. Passive workflows will run every time an HTTP request goes into the HTTP history, okay? And it'll run a workflow on that HTTP request. An active workflow will run on a request as well, but will run only when you execute it directly from the run workflow menu on a right click. So if it's got, if you want to execute some custom scans or something like that, okay? So, oh yeah, that's why that's the next slide.
Yeah.
Passive workflows are how we do this cool coloring thing, right, in HTTP history. So we're going to recreate that really quickly, which will be really helpful in y'all testing process moving forward to be able to correlate top-level navigations to and see it easily within HTTP history. We do have to move quickly through this. We're going to do this lab, which is creating this workflow. So this time go into passive workflows and try to create one that emulates this. What's going to be happening here is whenever a request comes through, so that's on intercept request, we're going to run a HTTPQL query on it. And inside that HTTPQL query, we will say, yeah, so something like this, right? Request.raw contains the sec fetch mode navigate header, okay? The sec fetch mode navigate header is something that the browser sends whenever it's doing a top level navigation of a document, okay? And then the additional condition that I have here is and the request contains sec fetch dest iframe, because I like to highlight iframes different than top level navigations, okay? But for you guys, if you just want to highlight the top level navigation, you could say does not contain sec fetch dest iframe, and it will be the top level navigation. Those are the two only options for that. So go ahead and pull these nodes out, get them on your screen, and we'll try to build this out. And then the next thing that happens here is we've got the set color. That allows you to provide a specific request into it in a hex code. There will be a color picker in there. There will be a color picker in there. But right now it's just a hex code, so I put the hex codes up on the screen on the next slide. They're at the, wow, can't see the red one. I'll read that to you. But yeah, go ahead and get these nodes on your screen, and we're going to try to build the passive workflow which highlights the top level navigations. What you're looking for is request rec.raw.contains sec-fetch-mode : navigate, okay? That is the header that the browser sends when you're doing a navigation. And actually, we could make it simple and cut off that other side.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's just do like the first, like.
Yeah, we're just going to do this one right here to make it simple. Matches HTTPQL. Check for sec fetch mode navigate. I wish we could make this bigger, Emil.
Let me try.
And then, yeah, you can just press Control+ maybe. Yeah. Right. And then scroll over to the
what?
sec fetch mode navigate. Is it letting you do it?
Yeah, I'm messing up your slide, but
that's okay.
Whatever, we'll fix it.
There it is. Rec.raw.contains sec fetch mode navigate. Okay. So it's going to check if the request contains that header, and if it does, it's going to highlight the request. this. Just to be clear, guys, there's no specific lab to test this. Just go to any page and refresh, and you should see it. You know, as long as the URL bar is changing, that header will be present, and you should be able to see the color in the HTTP history tab.
Let's scroll.
We're moving, Emil. All right, here we go. Actually, it looks like everybody got it, which is great. Guys, this is a massive, massive thing for orienting yourself in HTTP history, which is something I'm really very happy about and very passionate about within Caido, is making sure you know exactly where your requests are in HTTP history with minimal friction. So we'll see at the end if I ever get to it, like some of the additional features we have in place for that. But for now, let's go to active workflows. I'm not sure we're going to do the lab for this, but let's move, Emil. Active workflows you guys can execute from within Replay. You just right click and you hit run workflow and you select your workflow. Okay. The one that I have here, here's an example of a functional workflow. You guys is a CSRF text plain finder. Okay. So if any of you guys have worked with CSRF vulnerabilities before, there are a couple conditions for CSRF. Some of the most limiting ones are the fact that you can only send XForm URL encoded text plain and multi-part form with a CSRF request, because that's sort of legacy stuff. JSON is not included in that, and almost the whole web now is built on JSON request bodies content types. And so one of the things that I often try when I am testing a JSON API is I check whether the backend actually also supports a text plain version of that JSON data. So you've got JSON data in the body still. You can see it right here, right? A little bit right there. But if we send the text plain content type, will it process that JSON data still, or will it barf, right? And if it does process it, then you have the possibility to send that cross origin. And as long as your same site cookies aren't getting in the way, If you're doing like a same site lacks default top level navigation via post, then you can often trigger CSRF in those ways. So I found myself making that change a lot, and I was like, oh, let me just make a workflow for this. So I wrote this like, what is this, like 5-line workflow, and I'll just kind of go through it really quick since we're not going to have time to dive into.
I'll zoom in a bit.
Yeah, if you can, Emil. So this is a JavaScript node. You can see this workflow is really simple. It's just the JavaScript node, right? So we just pipe the request and the response into JavaScript. We are trying to do a lot of stuff, you know, without having to code, but sometimes we got to code, and I like having the ability to code, you know, within Caido. In the future, there will be nodes for this sort of behavior that you will not have to use code for, but currently we have to use code. So let's take a look at the code. The codes in the function on line 6, we see we get a request and a response variable passed into the function. Okay, line 7 you can just ignore. On line 8, we grab a spec version of that request, right? So that's giving us something to work with the request. We set the header content type to text plain, and then on line 10 we send that request. Okay, and then from that we get I call it response, but it's actually a request-response pairing. And then we check whether the response code of the request we just sent, that's on line 11, is equal to the original response code that we just got, right? Because we would expect if it doesn't like the content type, then it probably wouldn't respond with the same status code. So we check it, and if it's the same, we create a finding saying, yo, this thing's processing text plain, be aware of that, you know? And otherwise, it just doesn't do anything. Now, here's one of the things that we are going to improve, guys, within Caido is these little guys right here. The await functions or the await keyword will heck you up if you're writing a Caido JavaScript SDK node thing here, right? If you forget these guys, then it's not going to do the thing, and you're going to be like, why is it not doing the thing, right? So try to remember these await statements. We have docs, developer.caido.com, very in-depth that show examples on how to use each one of them. Do not forget these await functions. And if something isn't working, it's probably the await. Okay.
It usually is, yeah.
Yeah, it usually is. I've literally pinged Emil like 5 times, and he's like, await, Justin. And that's the only thing he responds to. So it's my bad.
Yeah.
But this is a really, really simple workflow. The other really nice thing is we have a guide online on how to do this in Cursor. So if any of you guys have used Cursor, you can import the Caido docs into this AI IDE, right? And you can just say, hey, write a workflow that does this. And it knows all the functions, and it just plops it out. And this was one-shotted by that. Yeah, go ahead.
And it's not synced. The send is not synced.
Yeah.
But you could do a then. If you want to do the then, that's possible. As long as you return the promise to the, Yep. It's a bit technical, but yeah.
Great question. So that's kind of what we got for this. If you go to the next slide, Emil.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, beware of the await statements. We're going to skip that lab for now. The other piece that I kind of wanted to make you aware of is now that we understand a little bit more about these workflows, in this environment, we can do things like insert in environment variables, and we can add workflows to this active processing here. If I remember correctly, this is only for pro users.
This is for pro users.
This is for pro users. Okay. The Caido free tier is extremely generous, more generous than it should be, in my opinion. But he's the guy that makes the decisions, not me.
Yeah.
But this is one of the things that you will need to buy Caido for.
Yeah.
All right, next is automate, guys. This is some of you guys have already jumped ahead and solved the 42 thing. But this allows you, this is Intruder, if any of you guys have used Burp, right? This allows you to send a bunch of requests in an automated fashion. The cool thing that we're going to mention here with Caido is that you can actually run workflows inside of this as well. So for every request, you can have it run a JavaScript node, right? And then you can generate what output you want inside of JavaScript, and then have that output out. So it gives you a lot of flexibility within Automate. We're going to skip this one, Emil. So just jump through the lab there.
Yeah.
Okay. Next interface is files. This is another differentiator for Caido. You can host your word lists that you use to do brute forcing and fuzzing directly within Caido. It's super easy. You just press the upload button at the top right, and then you can reference it within Automate when you're fuzzing for specific things. Yeah.
Only local to.
These are local to the server part of your instance. So let's say you've got your laptop and it's running on your desktop or your VPS. It lives on your desktop. So you can select those from your laptop in the interface, and it will run all of it from the backend.
That's why the upload is, sometimes people find it a bit tricky because if it's on the same computer, it's weird to upload, but it makes sense when if it's like a remote instance.
Yeah, and it really does help in those scenarios. One of the ones that I'll recommend to you guys is this one right here, all URL encoded ASCII. Just like take every character, from 0 to 255, represent it in URL encoded notation, right? Yeah, and I guess I should say ANSI. But yeah, it represent it in URL encoded notation, and then that'll be %00 through %ff, and then you use that for fuzzing. It's really helpful. All right, next slide. We're going to skip that lab as well, so we can show cool stuff. This is the search interface here. I'm going to drop this here.
Yeah.
This allows us to. This is kind of like HTTP history. The one difference here is that if you press that advanced tab up there, you'll be able to select sources for data you want to see within search. So you can see requests made from plugins, from workflows, etc. within search here.
If you use Logger++ or things like that, it's more similar to that.
Yeah, it's kind of like Logger++. Of course, you've got your HTTPQL bar at the top where you can filter what you're searching for without using your place in HTTP history. And at some point, we're going to tabify all of this as well. So you can run multiple searches across at the same time. And then we've also got export features. So if you want to get that data out of Caido, it's really clean and easy to do that. Caido is also built on an SQLite database on the back end. So if you want to slurp data out of Caido, it's already in the database. You just find the data file, connect to SQLite, and all of the formatted data is nice there, easy for you to.
Or you can use the GraphQL API that backs it out. Also.
Yeah. Also, there's a super powerful GraphQL API on the back end that you can look at, because once again, you can open Caido in your browser. So you can just open in the browser, open DevTools, and see the GraphQL requests that are going through. And it's really easy to create custom automation using that. One thing that they have made clear to me, though, is the GraphQL will change over time.
Yes.
So there may be breaking changes there. Yeah. Anything else? Dude, match and replace, son of a gun. Oh, okay. I'm gonna try. So this is the match and replace interface. Match and replace rocks, guys. And if there's one tool that I want beginners to master, I mean, it'd definitely be HTTP history and replay. But if there's a third tool, it would be match and replace. Okay? Because one of the easiest bugs to find in the world is client-side implementation of access controls. They've grayed out a button on the front end, but if you just do what the button does and you send the request to the server, then it's still going to work. I find it all the time. And one of the best ways to do that is match and replace. So we do have a lab for that. Essentially, how this works, we might do a couple minutes on the lab. But you create a new rule. That's one up at the top. Kind of went ham with all the buttons on this. Yeah. Sorry about that. But there's a section where you are providing your match and replace. So you want to do it in the response body, typically, which is what the default should be. But if it's not,
it's not. Yeah, I think you changed it.
You did? You changed it? Thank you. Thank you.
I got hammered on that.
Yes. Good. And then you've got a matcher and a replacer. Okay, so you've got some options there. You can have a string matcher, so it's just like literally like match and replace in like docs or whatever, right? But you also have the ability to do a regex matcher if you want something a little bit more dynamic. And then in the replacer, you can also reference those. You can provide a static string. You can reference regex capture groups if you're familiar with that, or you can also provide a workflow to provide that output, right? Because the matcher will provide a string that's bytes in, and then we can run it through a convert workflow and get bytes out.
JS, regex with flags or without?
Without flags at the moment, yeah.
Yeah. And you can provide your matcher, and then we've got an HTTPQL condition that you can provide here that will allow you to do conditional match and replace. So something you often see is like there's a feature flags.json file that's being loaded in, right? Let's just match and replace that, and then say it false to true or whatever, right? Now I've got all the features on the whole app, right? I'm the luckiest A/B testing user ever. And so good stuff there. 7, 8, 9, updating and testing. The testing will take data from this left-hand side and show the transformation of the match and replace. So in that way, you can validate whether your match and replace rule is doing what you want it to do. Okay.
A common thing that beginners face is they use predefined JSON. So just be careful about predefined JSON, because the predefined will have a space in there between the name of the key and the value. And usually in the real data, there's no space there.
Yeah.
So just be careful when you craft your rules and all that.
Yeah. And can you yeet yourself all the way back to replay where we can show the
Should I just go in the app?
No, just do. Is there something like right? Nah, I cut it off in that screenshot. Bummer. Dang, I have a lot of slides. Yeah, you can see at number 5 right down there at the bottom. That's how you do turn on and off pretty printing in Caido.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's see. 46. No, we don't have time to do the lab.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I would have really liked to do this lab. This is a really fun lab. But essentially, what you would do in this lab is there's a user and he has a role basic. And if you simply match and replace basic to admin, it now shows you the admin UI in your browser. I want to be clear. This is not a vulnerability. This is you controlling what's in your own browser, right? But if the backend then allows you to access admin functionality, then you got a vulnerability, right? So you have to be able to give the company a HTTP request that says, hey, this is bad access controls, okay?
And especially like feature flags, like they might be preview features that are like not accessible, so they have more bugs. They are not as well tested.
Yes.
So that's where you're gonna land some.
Huge, massive companies, Google, will ship stuff to prod, like as they're deving on it, and it will be behind feature flags. And I'm like, I cannot believe you shipped that. Like it's crazy to me. So if you become really well acquainted, this is a really big tip, guys. If you become really well acquainted with testing access controls with match and replace and turning on and off feature flags, that will land you a lot of bounties, okay? Just speaking from my world. Yeah. So now
we just did part 0.
That was part 0, guys. This is part 1 now. Yeah, I get to throw my little hacker jokes in there. So now we're going to talk about reducing friction in Caido with plugins, okay? Next slide, Emil.
Yeah.
These are the plugins that I would like you guys to check out, okay? We've got 403 Bypasser, Param Finder, Shift, Notes++, and Drop, okay? We're going to kind of go through each of those pretty quickly. I would like to demo it. We'll see. Yeah, so let's go to the next one. This is Shift. This is our AI plugin, okay? Written by yours truly. And essentially what this does is it allows you to use AI natively within Caido, right within Caido itself. So you can press Shift space. It will open up a box like this. It will give a bunch of context to the AI, and then you can prompt it. You say, hey, make a match and replace rule for this, right? And it will look at, when it says this, it looks at the text you've selected, and it says, okay, I need to make a match and replace rule on that. And then it automatically creates the match and replace rule within Caido, okay? So lots of really cool stuff there. Next slide.
Do we do the demo or?
Yeah. It is. It's available on Discord. We'll drop all of these. I would like to show you guys more later.
Yeah.
Shift memory, it will remember actual IDs and stuff like that, and allow you to allow the AI to use those IDs. So for example, this is a good example of memory. I paste in here and I say, build the JSON body from this JS, right? And it looks at the JS, it figures out what the request should look like. It substitutes in all of the IDs that I've stored in memory, and it creates that whole request within Caido. Super useful. I use this all the time. It's like one of those game-changing AI things that you're just like, yeah, this is, how did I live without this? So definitely recommend this. I will say, this is a paid add-on to Caido because it costs us AI credits. So you need an API key. Next slide. Oh, guys, this one's really cool too. Go to the, so I guess I'll explain it really quick. This is a feature that you guys have within Shift that will take your replay tabs and automatically rename them up at the top instead of just 1, 2, 3. It'll rename them to represent how you want a request to be named. So we'll see in just a second that we provided it with the way to do it. And it said it grabbed the verb. Play it one more time, Emil.
Yeah.
it grabbed the verb and the path, and it's going to put those up at the top. You see that? And it does that automatically as you're building those requests at a certain interval. Okay? Very helpful for figuring out how to find a specific request and have your tabs all named out.
We'll skip the lab.
Yep. So this is, pause on that one really quick. You can see the solution to this lab for the match and replace becomes super simple with Shift, right? I highlight role basic and feature flags empty, and I simply tell Shift, hey, create a match and replace to change my role to admin and add the sparkle background feature flag. And it reads the JS on this side, says, oh, that's the sparkle background feature flag, and then creates a match and replace rule to turn that on. Super clean. All right.
Drop. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do drop. I think this one will be a good one to actually have them do.
Do you want to show it live or?
Yeah, I'll show it live. Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
So drop is a collaboration plugin in Caido, okay? And what it does is it allows you to send requests from one user to another, or scopes or filters and workflows. And workflows we're working on still.
Workflows, yeah.
We've got the replay tabs and the scopes and the filters working currently. So let's say you're pair hacking with a buddy. You guys are working on a request. Ah, dude, I figured it out. Check this out, right? And you just go to drop to up at the top right-hand corner here, and you say to Justin Gardner, whoever your friend is, right? And in a moment, you get the little alert. And then can you bring it down, Emil? Because it's not.
No, where do I
Can
bring
I
it?
like move this? Yeah, you guys can kind of see it right there. There it is.
Oh boy. Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead and send it again.
Yeah,
Just
we'll
run
send it
drop
again.
to. Your buddy, so dropped it to Justin. Now your buddy's going to get a notification up here at the top right that says, yo, you just got a replay request from Justin. You want to claim it or delete it, right? And so you press claim, and boom, it appears in your replay tab.
If you're doing the CTF later, it's a great feature to have.
Yeah, if you're working with your friends on the CTF, dude figured it out, drop it to him. It's in his instance instantly. Super, super helpful. Where are we at on time? 5 minutes. Rip. Okay. We are going to go back to drop, but we're going to jump through these other ones really quickly so you can see. Go to the notes one.
Notes. Yeah.
So this is a notes plugin in Caido. Guys, is this not clean as heck? Like, look at this. You create a new note on the side, and you can embed requests directly within the notes. And you can also attach those notes directly from replay. So you're in replay, you're working on something, you're like, oh, I got to remember that, add it to my notes. You just press Windows Shift N. It opens up this floating modal where you can add notes. And then you write your notes in there, and you hit attach current context, and it results like this. So it's got the whole request embedded in the notes along with your text. All of that is synced down to MD files, markdown files on your device, so that you can easily upload them or send them as a report or whatever. Really nice plugin. This one is, skip through all that because I was just going to praise Vedix because he's amazing, the dev that wrote this. But this one is called 403 bypasser. Okay, so this is for the scenarios where you've got a WAF or a reverse proxy that's sitting in front of an endpoint, and it says, hey, can't access that endpoint, you're not an admin, right? But if you could get past the reverse proxy or the WAF, then you could access the endpoint, right? So there's a whole methodology that people have built over time on how to get around that WAF and get around that reverse proxy, okay? And this plugin right here allows you to automate your own methodology for this. And this is something I really love, is when tools will allow you to take what makes you unique as a hacker, right? And very easily automate it, put it into the tool so that you don't have to manually implement that, right? It's great to run scans or whatever, but at the end of the day, I only trust my methodology. And if I can have a tool take my methodology, implement it, allow good introspection so that I can see that my methodology is actually being implemented properly, that is exactly what I want. And that is what this plugin does. It uses AI. You can say, okay, hey, I think I can bypass this 403 by adding the isAdmin parameter. You prompt it with AI. It will actually create that script for you. You can test it right here. See the isAdmin parameter was added. And then you save, and then you can launch all of these techniques to bypass the 403 with one click and get introspection to that it's actually doing what it says it does.
Any default selections?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a bunch
tons of
of
default configs.
Yeah. And it's open source, so if you guys want to contribute.
Yep, I'm going to skip this one. I love Bebex, the guy that wrote that. Yeah. this slide I will spend a little bit of time on, then we'll go back and use drop. You guys can go ahead and install drop from the plugin store already. But I wanted to be clear about what we have on the docket as well for Caido, which is we're going to spend time increasing how easy it is to navigate through HTTP history and find the request you're looking for. We're going to have multiple user instances, so you and your buddy can be hacking on the same Caido backend instance. We're going to have key bindings for workflows and a raycast-like command palette where you can preview those convert things that are happening. So you can say, okay, I want you to base64 encode this, URL encode it, and then truncate the last %3D or whatever, like that, right? And you'll be able to see that previewed within the command palette. It's going to be awesome. And then I'm really pushing them to allow us to do AI supplemented workflow generation and AI autocomplete in there. Obviously, those are all opt-in features, but I think utilizing AI to help configure Caido is awesome because that doesn't have privacy implications, right? If it's just configuring your own instance, it has privacy implications when you do something like Shift does, where you're sending a whole request out to the AI and then it's coming back. AI generated workflow generation, not as much privacy considerations there because you're just building out a JSON file essentially. So lots of cool stuff to come with Caido. Next slide, please join the Caido Discord, links.caido.io. Community is super vibrant. We really, really want your feedback in any form that we can get it. So please let us know how we can best improve the product. You can keep an eye on our roadmap as well, right there at links.caido.io/roadmap. And guys, now is the time to get in on Caido because Caido will continue to grow in market share, and right now you can craft what Caido needs to be, right? And you guys can have input while it's still a relatively small project. Your voice can be heard and things can be changed, right? And if you guys want it to be the tool that you will use in the future, right, then you can make that happen. And you're not going to be able to make that happen with any other HTTP proxy. All right. You can go to the thank you slide real quick.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate that. Now we will go back and work on drop, but I guess I'll officially end the presentation since we are, we've got 2 minutes. We got 2 minutes. All right, go back to drop. Go back to drop. Guys, time management is hard when you're passionate about stuff, right? This like went by like that. So go ahead and install drop in your instances, and you'll automatically have a PGP key generated for you. You guys can put that in. You guys can share that in the Discord to your friends and drop requests back and forth. Okay. Looks like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then there's like a doc right there. You can share the PGP keys if you want to just experiment with your friends, or you can drop it in the Discord.
All right.
Minutes. Let's do it. Yeah, grab drop. I'm gonna actually add mine as well.
Yeah.
All right. Somebody gets a T-shirt if they can drop something to me first.
Pas en ce moment, c'est ça là.
Here's my
En ce moment.
my PGP key is here.
Mais c'est ça, c'est pas built-in dans, c'est pas genre un core feature de Caido.
It's the page is ctbb.show/nsec drop doc. So you can find my code right here.
La manière qu'on fonctionne, c'est vraiment comme on crée un plugin, on le laisse maturer, puis quand ça devient assez mature, puis qu'on a le temps à l'interne.
We'll see who sends it to me first. My share code is in that doc.
All right. Need to refresh that key afterward, though.
Yeah, I do. Absolutely, I do. It's gonna get blown up.
Yeah.
ctbb.show/nsec drop doc.
Oops, sorry, I'm in front of the screen.
Oh, that one's from me. So you go to settings, you paste in your friend share code right there, right? And then you go to replay and hit drop to. There we go. You got it? Hey, nice, dude. Well done. Do I claim it though? That's the question. I claim it. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, he dropped me the solution. What size shirt? What size shirt? Medium?
Medium, yeah. All right. Those are medium, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go, man. All right, I think that's pretty much it.
That is pretty much it.
Thanks a lot for the 2 hours you gave us, and
I can't believe 2 hours went back. So thank you, everybody.
all right. That's it.